try to do is we'll try to get onto all of those elements one by one. Okay, because if we look at all of those items one by one, all of those elements one by one, what will happen? We'll be able to understand the overall system, because overall system is what? Overall system is comprising of these elements only. Yeah, so if you set up these elements, or if you take care of these elements, then that's what is comprising of the system. Now, what are those elements? Let's try to understand that. First, it talks about leadership. Second, it talks about ethics or the ethical requirements which the firm is required to follow. Third, it talks about the process in respect of acceptance of a client, or if let's suppose there's an existing client, what is it that you will do when you want to continue that? Fourth, it talks about the HR. So yes, we are talking about HR as a process in the professional firm. Fifth, it talks about engagement performance. Now, because it's an engagement performance, so that's why what will happen? Now we'll be talking about the engagement of the firm. But please understand, over here, we are not again specific to an engagement. We are talking about all the engagements of the firm. Means the audit engagements. And fifth is the monitoring. So how is this monitoring required to be looked at? How is that required to be taken care of? Okay. So you can say all of these elements, if we put them together, that is what will comprise of the system, which is required to be put into place. Okay. Now, for any system of a professional firm, all of these elements are required to be taken care of. So we can't say that, okay, we'll ensure that ethical requirements are being taken care of, but we can just ignore the monitoring part, or you can just ignore the human resource part, or maybe leadership is not something that we want to focus on. No. Please understand that the system comprises of all of these elements. If any of these element remains weak, then the system will not be strong. And for the system to give a desired level of output, okay, desired level of output means with the quality parameters which are expected to be delivered, which the firm is expecting at a certain level. So therefore, what do you need? You need all of these elements to be set up in the manner the firm wants. Right? Now what we can do is, before we really get into the details, we can just go through one checklist. Okay, so now let's think about it. So let's suppose if any professional firm wants to set up this SQC. So basically this SQC is what? This SQC in a way is a policy or a procedure document for the organization. Right? So you can say over here, we are talking about the policies and procedures of the professional firm. So it's a document which is required to be put into place. So what do you mean by that? So does it mean that we prepare this document and we are good to go and we are done? The answer is no. See, the first point will of course be to ensure that there is a document in place. No doubt. But once the document has been put in place, if let's suppose everything is documented the way it is required to be done, another important area happens to be the implementation part of that. So you can say designing is one part, and whether that document or the process or the policies which are set up, are those operating, and are those operating in an effective manner or not? That is what will ensure that the quality parameters are are set up and they are being delivered in terms of the outcome of the professional firm. So that's why it's not only about preparing a document. So one should not think that over here we are talking about a document which is required to be prepared. No. So we are talking about something which is beyond that. Okay. So now let's try to get into the details. Okay. So now what I'll do is I'll just try to share one checklist with you, with the help of which we'll try to understand as to what is required to be covered over here, right? So just give me a minute. I'll just share this document. Okay. So let's suppose there's a professional firm. Now, what does it want? It wants to set up this SQC. So currently on the screen, this checklist that you look at, okay, this Excel document. So what is this Excel document? This Excel document is nothing but a checklist. And this checklist talks about all the elements which are required to be put in place, which are required to be looked at. So if let's suppose a professional firm wants to set up its SQC, so what will it do? It will go through all of these points one by one. So you can say it's in the form of a checklist. So all these paras, all the requirements of SQC have been put down in the form of a checklist over here. Now, when we prepare this document, SQC, so what do we do? So let's suppose we are talking about any of the requirements. Okay, so let me just pick up, for example, leadership. Okay, so if you look at this point, now if you look at this point number 9, yeah, is this visible, everyone? This point number 9, which I marked in color, is this visible to all? Everyone, please confirm.
Yes, sir.
Yes, very good. So now, if we read this para, what does it require? The firm should establish policies and procedures designed to promote an internal culture based on the recognition that the quality is essential in performing engagements. Such policies and procedures should require firms, CEO or equivalent, or if appropriate, firms managing partners or equivalent, to assume ultimate responsibility for the system of quality control. Now, in this case, we'll get into the details of this requirement later on. As of now, what are we trying to achieve? We are trying to use this checklist. Okay, so now as a first step, if let's suppose I am a partner of a professional firm and I want to set up this SQC. So what will I do? I'll look at this requirement and I'll say whether I have any such policy or procedure. If yes, so I'll give a reference of that document. Let's suppose if I'll say there's a document refer file XXX. Okay. So now what is the purpose of this? So we are just trying to create a reference over here. That yes, firm has a document which takes care of this requirement. Okay. So means a design is available, means the document is available. Now, as a next step, let's suppose firm has actually prepared a policy document. Let's suppose there's a policy document. So let me just write refer file and the file name is policy document XXX. Okay. Now, a document is available with the firm. Okay. Very good. Now, does it serve our purpose of SQC1? Not really. Why? Because What if this document is available with the firm, but actually no one in the firm is using this document? Means its practical application is missing. So will that document be of any use? What do you think? Tell me, what do you think? Will that document be of any use?
No, sir.
Why do you think it's no?
If it is not implemented, then that document does not have any relevance.
Very good. So now, what is therefore the most important part? That along with the document, means along with the design, its implementation should also be there. So that's why, as a firm, what do I need to ensure? I need to ensure two things. So I can say I need to ensure whether the design is in place. If yes, whether it is being implemented in the firm in respect of various jobs which the firm is doing or not. Yeah. So how will I check that? Here again, for checking that, I need something. So let's suppose if I go back to this point. Now let's read this point. What does it require? It says firm should establish policies and procedures designed to promote an internal culture based on the recognition that quality is essential in performing engagements. Okay. Now, in respect of this, for the firm to demonstrate that such policies and procedures are passed on as an internal culture. So what does it require? It requires that leadership has a responsibility. What is the responsibility of the leadership? That they need to promote a culture of quality control within the firm. Now, who is this leadership? It could be the managing partner of the firm. It could be the CEO. Maybe the firm has designated a partner who will play this role. Generally, it's the managing partner who is expected out of this, right? Along with the managing partner, let's suppose another partner is also playing this role. Okay. So, therefore, if let's suppose leadership is playing this role, so what will happen? Let's suppose they are conducting trainings, okay, or they are making communications with the staff. Now, how could that communication be made? Maybe they are doing some verbal discussions. Maybe there are some meetings which are taking place. Okay, or maybe there's this open house session which is taking place, or maybe there's a communication through emails which is moving from the leadership to the employees of the firm. Yes, something should be available or something should be there to ensure that this requirement in respect of leadership is getting implemented. Correct? So if let's suppose that is getting implemented, what will I do? I'll say yes, the implementation is in place. Understood? Yeah. So if let's suppose as a firm, I have set up an SQC and I'm also ensuring that the implementation is being done. So it's not only the design, its implementation is also there. What can I do? Maybe periodically I can just review that whether all of these things are being taken care of. So how do I do that? I can do that with the help of this checklist, because this checklist will ensure that none of these points which are referred to in this SQC are being taken care of. Understood? So that's the purpose. Now, is it necessary to have a checklist like this to be in place? Not necessarily. But practically, this is what the firms will do. Generally, in most of the cases, you will find that. Okay, so maybe it's not there on an Excel file, maybe it's on the Word file, maybe they will pull out the SQC and over there they'll just put a tick mark that yes, it's done and it's not done. So it could be in different forms. My idea was to just give you a practical perspective as to how this SQC needs to be put in place. Understood? Understood. Any questions so far? Anyone? Any questions? Any doubts so far?
Clear, sir.
Anyone else? Shailendra, Geeta, Lavanya, any questions?
No, clear.
Yes. Clear,
Sure.
sir.
All right. So if you are clear, then I'll have to ask questions. Huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. All right. So now, moving further. Now what we can do is we can just pick up all of these elements and we'll just try to go through all those requirements. Okay. So what I've done is, for the purposes of our discussion, I've just broken down all of these elements into different sections. So first of all, we'll talk about leadership. So that's the first element which is there in SQC1. Now, what is the primary purpose or what is this requirement related to leadership? See, the standard says that leadership is responsible for ensuring the quality within the firm. Okay. Now, does it mean that the personnel of the firm, they are not responsible? They are responsible. But for promoting that environment, to ensure that such a culture is there within the firm, who has to look into it? Means who is the person who will take ownership of this? There has to be somebody who is responsible, who will just try to ensure that this culture stays within the organization. Who is that? That's the leader of the organization. So that is what is expected out of the firm. So therefore, as a firm, when it comes to its leadership, so the firm CEO or the managing partner. And for this, we discussed that what will they do? They will ensure that they have regular communications with the employees. Now, communication could be in either form. It could be through the emails, maybe during the trainings, such communications are taking place. Maybe there are some separate discussions. Okay. Now, again, depending on the type of firm, depending on the size of the firm, and depending on the way they want to communicate, this can be done. Important thing is such message has to reach to the firm, to its employees, that this is what the leadership wants you to do. Because if, let's suppose, employees are aware, they have an understanding that this is what the leadership wants us to do, only then they will want to do that or not. Only then they will move in that direction or not. If, let's suppose, there's an employee who joins the organization today, he doesn't know anything about the firm, and there's no policy document available, there's no procedure. So what will he do? He will do the work the way it's required to be done, but as per his understanding. But if, let's suppose, firm has a particular way of doing that work, which is put down in writing, and which the firm is also communicating to that employee that this is how you are required to do. So you can say it's a very explicit discussion which has taken place. And that's where you can always hold that person accountable. Otherwise, will there be any accountability? No, that will not be able to be set up. Right? So from that perspective, these things become important for the firm to take care. And who has the responsibility for this? It's the leadership who is responsible for this. Right? Continuing on this. Firm's leadership and the examples it sets significantly influence the internal culture, as we just discussed. Right? For promotion of this quality oriented internal culture, a lot of things, these messaging actions need to be made by the management to the employees. And what are those requirements? Those requirements are in relation to, first, Perform the work that complies with professional standards. Issue reports that are appropriate in the circumstances. Yes or no? Now, when it comes to the leadership, now what can they do? See, there's a very simple way of reaching out to various employees. So let's try to understand about it. Let's try to understand some of those practical aspects. First, let's suppose there's a new joinee. What can the firm do? There can be an induction program. And generally, you see there's an induction program of the new employees. So during induction, what can the firm do? There could be a small session by the leadership during induction. Okay. So there could be a small session of this. Right? So that's one. Next, any employee who joins the organization. So if you continue to talk about the new joinee, he can be given an access and he can be made to read policies, procedures of the firm. See, when a new employee joins the organization, so over here, what can the firm do or what can the HR do? HR can give the policy documents, or maybe there's a link of the portal where all of these policies and procedures are available for the employee to go and read them, so that he is aware as to what are the policies, what are the procedures of the firm which he is required to follow in respect of different engagements which he is supposed to execute later on. Yes or no? Yeah. So this is how the firm will be looking into the things. Correct? Yeah. And of course, it's not limited to the new join. So let's suppose now the employee is there in the organization. So we are talking about not the new joinee, but the employees who are there in the organization. Means who are not new. So what can the firm do? Firm can have regular communications in terms of any changes, any updates, any further requirements. And it's always better to have regular communications. Many a times you'll see the firms conducting training programs on a regular basis. Over there, this messaging can be made. Or otherwise, the firm can have this discussion. Yeah, but that's important, because if you make these regular doesn't mean every day this message has to be given. No. So it's not that every day employee will get this WhatsApp message or a message on his call. No, that's not what is required. But it's like every quarter, if let's suppose some discussions are held, maybe the employees are getting together, they are having some discussions over there, the leadership should also participate. Because over here, what are we saying? That the thing should flow from the top. Yeah, so something that flows from the top is always is expected to have some impact. Yes or no? Yeah. So that is what is expected, and that is what this element actually requires the firm to put in place. Okay. Yeah. Any questions on this element related to leadership? Anyone? Leadership? Yeah. All clear? Sure.
Clear, sir.
Now, moving further. Now we will talk about ethics. Any thoughts? Anyone who will explain as to what this ethics is all about? What do you do in case of ethics? What are the ethical requirements in relation to a professional firm? Any thoughts? Anything that you like to add here?
The code of ethics which every professional should follow while conducting any professional activity.
Okay, what else? Anyone else who would like to add to this? Yes, anyone? All right, so let's look at this. Now, what are the ethical requirements? See, by ethical requirement, we mean to say the code of ethics. So, for a professional, code of ethics is something which is mandatory, yeah, something which is essential for him or to follow in respect of every engagement. So, in respect of every activity that he is supposed to do. Now, over here, the firm is expected that in respect of various engagements, the firm will perform. Ethical requirements are taken care of. Now, when it comes to the ethics, so there are some fundamental principles which are always required to be considered. Now, what are those fundamental principles? Integrity, objectivity, professional competence, confidentiality, professional behavior. Yes or no? So these are not new, correct? Now, in this case, one very important area which an audit professional is required to follow. What is that? Independence. Yes or no? So an auditor has to be independent. That's the basic expectation out of an auditor. Right? Now, what do you mean by independence? Independent means the professional should be free of bias, any sort of bias in terms of executing the project. Now, over here, now what is it that the firm is supposed to do? Firm is supposed to ensure that all of its employees are independent in respect of its clients. Yes or no? Because if, let's suppose, any of the firm professional has got any sort of connection, any sort of relationship, then this can have an impact on the engagement performance, right? So, how do you ensure that? So, that's where the firm is required to ensure that all the employees are independent in respect of the engagements, means in respect of the clients of the firm. So, what is it that the firm will do? The firm will take an independence declaration. Now, who is supposed to do this? It's the employee. Yes or no? Because the employee has to be independent, but the firm is required to ensure that the employee is independent. So, how will the firm ensure that? So, the first step, there is a document called as annual independence declaration. Who is supposed to provide that? Employees. Means annually, firm will ensure that all the employees are independent. Now, that again, when it comes to the independence declaration, do we have any exception on that? No, there are no exceptions. Is that supposed to be provided by all the professionals? Answer is again yes, that is supposed to be provided. Yeah, because if this is not done, what will happen? This can have an impairment in terms of independence of the firm and in respect of the clients which the firm is serving. Yeah. So that's why its implementation becomes very important. Now, when it comes to the implementation, so over here, there are a couple of things. One is to make sure that such type of policy, such type of document is available, which the employee can go and read, understand as to what is it that he or she is required to follow. Second, they are also required to give a declaration. But can we have a situation that the employees of the firm have given a wrong declaration? Tell me, do you think that's possible? That maybe the firm is taking the declaration, but that declaration is coming from the employee. So, do you think a wrong declaration can be provided by the employee? Possible, not possible? Tell me quickly.
Possible, sir.
Possible. So, now what will the firm do? So, will it be enough on the part of the firm to just have the declaration? Answer is no. So, that's why the firm should also have some monitoring mechanism. So, let's suppose firm has taken these declarations, say from 100 employees. What can the firm do? Out of these 100, firm can pick up 10 and review that. Okay, whether the declaration which the employees have provided is correct or not. So you can say it's an audit. But you may be thinking, but sir, when we talk about audit, we talk about the financial statements. No. So audit means checking, examination, verification. So over here, we are not talking about financial statements. Over here, we are talking about the system of the firm. So the system not only requires the design, system requires its foolproof implementation. So how will that be ensured? When the firm will have this type of monitoring mechanism as well. Because if there are any such exceptions which the firm will receive, so let's suppose if there is any breach of independence policies and procedures, which the firm will get to know. Okay, maybe either the employee is communicating to the firm or maybe the firm gets to know. So an immediate action over that can be taken. Now that becomes essential, right? That becomes essential. An immediate action in respect of that is very, very important, because that is not done, then it can have a huge impact. Why? Because independence is the core principle. Yeah, that's the base with which the firm will perform any engagement. So if let's suppose independence is missing, then the overall quality that we expect is not up to the mark. Correct? Now, similarly, when we talk about independence, so as we discussed, at least annually, what should the firm do? Firm should obtain written confirmations. Right? Further, over and above obtaining the written confirmations, what should the firm do? Firm should also examine that. So that any such confirmation which is obtained, whether that is meeting the required parameters or not, and whether that is accurate or not, can also be checked by the firm. Right? Now, moving on to the third element. Now, the third element talks about acceptance and continuance of client relationships and specific engagements. Now, what does it mean? See, over here, we are actually talking about two things. Now, what is that? Client acceptance. Right? And the other one is client continuance. Can somebody explain the difference between these two? What is the difference between?
Sir, client acceptance is related to new client,
Okay.
and client continuance can be continuance of the existing relationship with regard to the specific engagement, or accepting a new engagement with the existing client.
Very good. So when it comes to client acceptance, as the terminology suggests, over here, what are we doing? We are accepting a client. or we are checking as a firm, means we are talking about the process of the firm whether to accept a client or not. Yes or no? So over here we are checking whether to accept the client or not, right? But if let's suppose firm has an audit client, say for the financial year 25, 24, 25 audit is completed. Okay, say audit is completed. Let's suppose for 24, 25 audit is completed. Now, client wants to continue with the firm. So as a firm, there has to be a process. What? To continue? No. To check, to assess whether to continue or not. So, as a firm, what should it do? It should decide whether for 25, 26 it would like to continue or not, right? So, when it comes to client acceptance, actually we are talking about new client, or you can say new engagement. Means it could be the same client but a different engagement with that. But when it comes to client continuance, so we are talking about a client, sorry, actually, we are talking about it should be a new client only. Whether we are, when it comes to a client continuance, so we are talking about an existing client with which we are going to start with a different engagement. So actually, we are talking about a new engagement because when you say 24, 25 is completed, so one engagement is completed. Now 25, 26, I'm just putting it across as if it's a new engagement, but it's actually a new engagement. Okay. So that's why I'm using these two terminologies. Okay. For the purposes of our discussion. Right. Now comes the point that it is understood what is client acceptance, what is client continuance. But now comes the question that whether it's the client acceptance or the continuance, what is it that the firm should do? Yes or no? So, anyone, any thoughts? So, if let's suppose a firm were to accept a client, what is it that the firm should do?
The firm should look into the integrity of the client
Okay. What do you
with
mean by
regard
integrity of the client?
uh, whether the mm, client has involved in any money laundering or criminal activities,
Okay.
their
What
business
else?
operations,
Okay.
and their reputation,
Okay.
and whether they are implementing any scope limitations on the audit.
Right. All right. Anyone else? Any more thoughts on this? Quickly. Quickly, yeah. So when it comes to client acceptance, what is it that you'll do?
Sir, even from a firm side, also they should look into whether they are competent enough to perform the audit, whether they have the available resources and time to perform the audit.
Right. So you mean to say that as a firm, they should evaluate whether they have the capability to do this audit or not. Right.
Yes,
But can
yes.
you tell me why is this relevant? So why would a firm want to check that? How does it impact the firm?
Sir, if they accept the audit and they don't have the sufficient personnel with the knowledge to do the audit, then they cannot deliver the quality service.
Yes, absolutely. Because if let's suppose a client comes and they are asking for audit, let's suppose the client is currently into telecom. Okay, so they have this they belong to telecom industry. But as a firm, it doesn't have any experience of telecom. Number two, firm doesn't have the appropriate personnel. So what will happen? will the firm be able to achieve the desired quality level in terms of the delivery? Answer is no. Okay, so as a firm, what should it do? As a firm, to begin with, there are few areas which are important to be evaluated. What are those? Integrity of the client, identity, business reputation of the owners, KMPs, okay, means the directors, nature of operations, right? And information around the owners, their KMPs, whether the client is aggressively concerned with maintaining the firm's fee as low as possible. Why? Because again, this will have an impact on the quality of the audit. The outcome is going to be impacted due to this. Correct? Whether the client wants to put any limitation on the scope of work, whether the client is involved in any sort of wrongdoings, you can say, any sort of activities which are not legitimate. Correct? Now, as regards this evaluation, what is it that you will do? So you will first of all check the background. Yeah, you will want to check the background of the KMPs, the owners, which you can easily do. You will want to have discussions with the client personnel before accepting the engagement. Means what are their systems and processes? Means what is their thought process when it comes to the quality control? Similarly, when it comes to the financial reporting, so how good are those in terms of those reporting requirements? All of these factors become important. If let's suppose there's a change in auditor, what's the reason why that change is being made? Right? Further, when it comes to the acceptance, so one is to look at the client side. It's also important to look at the firm capabilities, because it's not only the client which is required to be evaluated, it's also required to be evaluated whether the firm is competent to do this job or not. Okay, so the capabilities, competence, the timelines. Let's suppose the client wants the audit to be performed during the month of April, but the firm doesn't have the resources available during this month. Maybe the resources are available during this month is not available. So how does the firm achieve the timeline? Okay, whether the firm has got the adequate resources or not. So these factors become important. Why? Because if any of these factors is not looked at, this can have an impact on the quality of the firm in terms of the work they do. Correct? Yeah. So now the matters which the firm will consider, what do they do? One, whether the firm personnel have the knowledge of the relevant industries or the subject matters, whether they have the experience with the relevant regulatory or reporting requirements, whether they have the sufficient personnel with necessary capabilities and competence. Maybe the resources are there, but they do not have the skill set to do the work which is required to be done in respect of the client which is under evaluation for audit purposes. Sometimes, for certain projects, firm may need the involvement of some experts. For example, say there is a particular industry over which firm doesn't have any experience and the firm believes some of the experts will be required, but the firm doesn't have those experts. Okay, so will the firm be able to get into those areas, get into those specifications without the experts? The answer is no. So what will happen? Who will look into this? How will the understanding be obtained? Because you can't rely on the client completely, or you can't just depend on the client completely, because eventually it's the audit, it's the examination you are required to do. Yes or no? Where the firm would be able to complete the engagement within the reporting deadline. Now, this is a very, very common thing. Generally, when you talk to a client, so they will always have an expectation. They will always have a time frame. Yeah. Generally, they will also be looking at some criteria, some basis in terms of their reporting requirements. Okay. Over there, to have a clarity around the timeline is very important, without which it can have a huge impact. Okay. Next, when it comes to the client acceptance, now comes the point that what is it that the firm will do? See, generally in this case, what the firm will do is, now this requirement of client acceptance is actually specific to a client. Yes or no? So that's why if let's suppose firm has got say 50 clients, what should they do? For each and every client, this evaluation should be done. Now, it cannot be a generic document prepared for all the clients taken together. No, why? Because this assessment has to be client specific. So therefore, this has to be a part of documentation, not only for the purposes of SQC, but also for the purposes of engagement later on. So therefore, what do you find? Generally, in respect of this evaluation, you will find that the firm will have a client acceptance form. Okay, you can say again, it's a kind of document they will prepare. Generally, this is what you find in case of most of the organizations. They will have a format which is prescribed and which will put down all of these requirements of SQC, basis which any new client that comes up, the firm will evaluate. Okay, as to the risk involved, as to some of these things that we have talked about, and then they will decide. Now, it's not something that the firm will evaluate and they will say, okay, yes, we have done the evaluation, so yes, accepted. No, maybe basis the evaluation, the firm may decide not to accept the engagement. Yes or no? So is it necessary that the firm will accept? And you may be thinking, how can the firm say no? Because firm will have stakes involved, because that will also give revenue to the firm. That's correct. But we are talking about the quality control. We are not talking about the quality control which is driven by revenue. Yes or no? So that's why it's important for the firm to assess and then decide whether they want to accept or not. Okay, so basis the evaluation, the firm may decide whether to accept or not accept. And this is something which the firm should also document somewhere. So where will you find this? In the client acceptance form. So firm should have a repository in respect of all of these evaluations which are done during the year. Now, how does that help? That will demonstrate the implementation. Because to say that the firm does this will be written in the policy document. So firm can always prepare a policy document saying that this is what is supposed to be done. Whether that is actually done or not, how do you get to know about it? When you see these types of documents. Yeah. So even for those which are not accepted, this documentation should be done. Yeah, with the reasons, of course, with the detailed evaluation, of course, that this is what the firm evaluated and they decided not to continue. Correct? Yeah. Now, similarly, when it comes to the client continuance, now this could be slightly different, or you can say it can have some sort of additional information which could be available with the firm in terms of this evaluation. Now, basis the evaluation we just looked at in terms of client continuance, can you just think of some more requirements or some different requirements which the firm should have when it comes to continuing with the existing client? Over to you. Anyone? Any thoughts? Yes, quickly. Anyone? Any thoughts? What is it you'll find differently in case of client continuance as against client acceptance? Quickly, yeah.
Sir, when it comes to client continuance, it can be withdrawal from the specific engagement or withdrawal from the client itself.
Right. But the point is, what is it that you'll have under this client continuance which may not be there when it comes to the client acceptance? So let's understand that. See, now we are talking about a client over which the work is already done in a particular area or maybe in the last few years. And now, as a firm, what are we trying to do? We are trying to evaluate whether to continue or not. Yes or no? Now, you may be thinking that if the firm has already done the work, why would it decide not to continue? Maybe during the previous year, during the audit of the previous year, a lot of observations had come and which didn't go well in terms of their execution. Yes or no? Maybe the risk on this engagement has increased significantly. Now, when it comes to a client acceptance, see, we are talking about a new client. So, no, for which the information will be available, which we'll ask for. But when it comes to a client continuance, we are actually talking about a client which we have audited. So, there is a lot of information which the firm will always have in place. Yes or no? Which is different from what you do in case of client acceptance. So you'll have a lot of information available in terms of its evaluation. Basis which you will decide. Now, what are those? So this audit information, observations which are there in the past year. Basis which, what do? You decide whether you want to continue or not. Now, in this case, should you be following similar sort of parameters? Answer is yes. This background check, some of these things, when it comes to the firm, all of those things will be done. But along with that, a lot of information which would have been there in respect of audit of the previous year or the previous years will also be made use of. That will also be used by the auditor in terms of doing this analysis. And to say that because we have done this client in the previous year and that's why it's an implied acceptance for the next year may be wrong. And that is not what this SQC requires. So it says the firm to get into the details of that and accordingly decide whether to continue or not to continue. Okay. Now, moving further on to the next element, which talks about HR. But any questions so far? Any doubts so far? Everyone clear so far? Sure?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, everyone clear? Sure? All right. So let's move on to the next element. See, HR. Now, generally, HR is something that you will associate with a company, and you will not think of this HR in case of a professional firm. Generally, you don't get to see this. But please understand that it will be dependent on the size of the firm. Now, HR doesn't mean that you need to have a separate HR manager. Maybe any personnel of the firm, maybe any audit partner, or maybe if any of the partners of the firm is playing this role. Important part is what? This function has to be in place. Now, who is playing this role is not something important. This function has to be in place. Understood? Yeah. So therefore, it becomes important.
Sir, one question.
Yes.
So basically, in audit profession, like questions comes up, like you're saying, like in case of continuation, as a CA firm, we have to be alert, like we should continue or not because things are going out of the way. But as a
Right.
custodian of audit, like we should do and we should highlight, why we, as a custodian of our profession, we should do the things which is going wrong and we should take action in spite of backing out. I need opinion on that. Like why we are. I know things are going wrong. If you not highlight, issue will happen. But if we highlight, what we should do, you control this corruption, other things going out of the way. Practically, how we can control, how we can contribute more.
Right. So your question is that are we looking at a requirement of the standard which is giving a leeway to the auditor to just run away from its responsibilities? Is it? Is that the question?
Yes, how to sort it out? Things are going out of the
No,
way.
so of
Why they're
course,
taking
to
out?
sort it out, there is a mechanism, but we are not talking about something to sort out over here. To sort out will definitely be something which the auditor or any personnel will want to do. Over here, we are not talking about a dispute. Okay. So we are just looking at one of the requirements which requires the auditor to evaluate the engagement. To say that because it's a continuing engagement, the auditor should not close his eyes and say that it's a deemed acceptance for me. Okay, so that's the purpose of this requirement, that this deemed acceptance should not be there. If let's suppose there's a client you have been auditing for the last 3 years, you come across some issues. Now, if you come across those issues, what do? You'll talk to the client, you'll have discussions with them, and basis which, as a firm, what do? Every time you will do the audit, you will do your risk assessment as an audit firm. Now, in terms of your risk assessment, you will categorize. You will say whether it's a low risk, it's a high risk, it's a medium risk. How do you get to know about it? You will get to know about it when you do the evaluation. Now, depending on the evaluation you have done, depending on the risk assessment you have done, and depending on the level within which you categorize the client, what do? You decide your strategy, you decide your approach. So, over here, the idea is not to just look into it whether to continue or not continue. So, it's not about giving a leeway to the auditor to say that, okay, use this document, and using this document you can just say that I'll not want to do this audit anymore. No, that's not the thought process, that's not the objective. Objective is the detailed evaluation and thereby decide. Okay, so that it has to be a proper evaluation and a proper assessment on the part of the auditor, basis which he is moving into the audit. Understood? Are you clear on this now?
Got it, sir.
Okay. All
But
right.
practically, things like still come. If we are doing audit for 3 years and we will not do continue, new person will come to know the things after some time.
Hmm.
So, just to correct it, like there should be some like I don't know like, how to avoid this like wrong practices which is going on.
See, that is up to you. If let's suppose wrong practices are going on, that means the standards which are put into place are not being followed. Okay, so over here, what are we discussing? We are saying that if let's suppose there are some standards, there are some procedures, those need to be implemented. So if you find that practically these are not implemented, I may agree, but the point is that the right thing? Answer is no. So we are talking about the right thing. And then comes the question that is it only bookish? Can this really be applied by the audit firms in a practical manner? The answer is yes, very much yes. It's up to the firm as to how do they want to follow this. And that's why I said there are two things which are important. One is the design and second is the implementation. So to have a design is not the sufficient requirement. Its implementation is also required. Understood?
My point is something wrong going on higher side, and we will discontinue the audit, and somebody is doing. Well, some action can happen at CA.
No, no, no. So please understand. If let's suppose there is something which is going wrong, so we are not talking about assessment of this client continuance during the process of the audit. No, we are saying the audit is done for 24-25. Let's suppose there was something wrong. What do? You will apply your auditing standards and you will do the reporting requirements. Let's suppose you have qualified. Let's suppose you have given adverse opinion. Now you are deciding whether I want to continue for 25-26. Nowhere are we saying that for 24-25, while the audit is going on, use this document and run away from that. No. So two things are different.
Okay.
Understood? Right? So it's not that midway you are running away. It's not about that. It's about a new engagement, a fresh engagement for the same client. And what is that new engagement for the new year? Clear?
Got it, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else? Any more questions on this? No? Sure? All right. So now, moving further. Now, when it comes to HR, now HR needs to play a role. And why is the role of this HR very important? See, when it comes to audit, basically we are talking about a service. Who will deliver this service? People. So if the people are not meeting the required quality control parameters, can the desired outcome in terms of the audit, can that be achieved? Answer is no. So that's why, what are the important areas? Each and everything in relation to people becomes important, whether it comes to their recruitment, whether it comes to their performance evaluation, so that wherever any corrective action is required, that can be taken care of, whether it's about the selection of the people, right? And whether it comes to the upgradation, wherever it is required in the form of training or some other requirements. Now, all of these things become important. Why? Because eventually this will have an outcome on the performance which the employees will be involved on, right? So that's why this aspect becomes important for the firm to look at. Now, what is the first thing? Of course, you will want to hire the correct person, the right person who will be able to fit into the organization, who will have those required criteria basis which the firm wants to do the job. If let's suppose there are any gaps, if let's suppose the person is hired, then to train that, to educate that person. Okay, so that the person is able to follow what the firm is wanting him to do. So how will that be achieved? Through the trainings. And of course, to identify the person. So let's suppose there are a few persons who have been working into manufacturing sector. So they have got the skill set. They understand the industry. Similarly, if let's suppose there are a few persons who are working on the, let's suppose say real estate side. So they have got that skill set. So choosing the right person for the right job becomes important. And then, of course, some perspective as around the growth of the employees also become important. So who is required to look into it? Firm. So all of these parameters, if not taken care of, will again have an impact on the outcome of the audit engagement. Right? Next, engagement performance. Now over here, we are talking about performance, or you can say the audit engagement. Now, what does it mean? So actually, now what are we doing? In this element, or through this element, we will talk about the firm. But when you look at this element, so you'll have to go down to the engagement level. Means, if let's suppose there are 50 audit engagements, means there are 50 audits to be performed. So over here, what do we need to do? We need to look at each of that audit engagement, right? And to check whether in respect of each of that audit engagement, these criterias were, or these parameters were taken care of or not. Now, what are those requirements? Now, for each and every audit engagement, some of the things which become important: how the engagement teams are briefed, process for complying with engagement standards, engagement supervision, staff coaching, method of reviewing the work, documentation. So actually over here, what are we doing? We are talking about the audit execution, audit planning, audit conclusion, audit reporting, whether that is meeting the required auditing standards or not. So as a firm, it needs to put up this parameter in place. What is that? That whichever engagement it will do, it will ensure quality with the required parameters. Yeah. So you may be thinking, but this is something which is specific to the engagement. Yes. But as a firm, this policy, this procedure has to be put in place. This culture has to be put in place, that every engagement they will do, they will ensure that each engagement is done with the required quality parameters. Right? Which will involve all of those aspects: choosing the right person, having the right size. So it should happen that the team requires, say, 10 persons to be put on the engagement, but actually there are only 4. Okay, because if there's a shortage of staff, so the quality will be impacted. If let's suppose there are some junior employees, let's suppose there are some trainees right now. So somebody has to be there who will guide them as to what is required to be done, and who will also review their work. Yeah. So the involvement of the partners, the senior personnel, become important. So it shouldn't happen that their involvement is just minimal. No, they are also supposed to devote appropriate time depending on the type, depending on the complexity of the engagement. But it shouldn't happen that their involvement is not there. Right? So all of these things actually play a very important role. Next, another very important point happens to be around consultation. Now, many times what may happen is, say there are some tricky matters. Sometimes some accounting matter may come up, some audit matter may come up, some legal matter may come up, over which the engagement team or the audit partner, or you can say the engagement partner, doesn't have the expertise. So what do they do? So the standard says they need to go and consult. So there has to be a mechanism within the firm, right? So that any gaps which are there in respect of those contentious or difficult matters, those are taken care of. And if let's suppose that capability is not there within the firm, they can always go and consult with the external experts. That doesn't mean they will be relieved of their responsibility. No, the responsibility will always remain, but that's how they are just ensuring that any of those gaps are filled up. Right? So this consultation is very important. Similarly, sometimes what may happen is, let's suppose in relation to a particular matter, there are two persons. Engagement partner is there and EQCR is there. Let's suppose they have a difference of opinion. Now, what do you do? How do you close the engagement? So can we just say that anything engagement partner will decide will be accepted? Answer is no. There has to be again a proper mechanism within the firm who should look into this matter independently, who should evaluate, and who should then ensure that any such differences is resolved in an appropriate manner. Not to say that, okay, because the engagement partner is going to sign the audit report, so that's why he will have a final say. No, whatever is appropriate should be finalized. So the firm should set up this mechanism within the system. So maybe some designated partners should be involved, or maybe the managing partner will play this role. And another very, very important criteria happens to be the EQCR. Now, in respect of listed clients particularly, what do you find? Another senior personnel is involved, who is generally a partner, who will do what? Who will ensure all of these qualities are there in respect of the audit engagement. And that's why he's called as engagement quality control reviewer. So you can say, what is the role of the EQCR? So what EQCR will do is, so let's suppose this is the engagement team comprising of 5 persons: audit partner, manager, and the person. So EQCR will review the work of the engagement team. But does it mean he will do this re-audit or this will be a duplication? No. Some of the important areas, some of the key areas, some of the high risk areas is something which the EQCR will want to focus on to ensure what? To ensure that the quality is there. Right? So EQCR plays a very, very important role when it comes to the audit engagement. Okay, right? Now, for the selection of EQCR, again, there has to be some parameter within the firm. It has to be an independent selection. And again, the workload of EQCR similar to the workload of the team person should also be looked at. Now, once the engagement is completed, what do we need? Documentation. And the documentation which is then completed, that should also be archived. Right? So there has to be a proper documentation which is kept at a place and which is sort of kept in a manner that the access is not available to everyone. Because once the audit is completed, it's archived, then nobody should just be able to go and edit something over there. Right? This is again a very, very important criteria that in terms of the documentation, once this is archived, that is access free. If and only if due to some requirements, let's suppose there is any regulatory review, that's when the access should be available. But the access should be limited to only the reading of those files. No editing should be permitted, because once the audit is completed, what will you go in terms of the documentation? Because documentation is completed then. Correct? Next, when it comes to the monitoring, now monitoring, as we discussed, plays a very important role. Now, in case of monitoring, what is it that we are trying to achieve? We are trying to achieve that something over which a design is available, something which is getting implemented, is also reviewed by the firm. So the firm in itself is reviewing the work. So for example, when it comes to monitoring, what can happen? So we can have a system of review of audits. So what does it mean? Say for 24-25, audit is completed. Okay, there are 5 partners, each auditing 10 clients. So the firm should have a system in place wherein audit files of each of these partners is picked up to ensure what? That such files are meeting the required quality control criteria. This is what you call as monitoring. Now you may be thinking, but is it not read audit? No, it's the examination of the documentation. It's the examination of what the auditor has done. Why? Because if let's suppose there are some gaps, so something if requires improvement, that can always be looked at. Clear? Clear on this? So this monitoring actually plays a very important role, and at times you get to see this is getting neglected. Okay, but this actually is very, very important for the firm to consider, for the firm to look into it. Right? Any questions so far? Anyone? Any questions? No? Sure? Everyone clear? All right, great. So now what we will do is, now we will look into this SA 220. Now, when it comes to SA 220, let's try to understand the difference of SA 220 with SQC. See, SQC talks about firm as a whole. Everything that we discussed so far was looked at from the perspective of firm as a whole. But when it comes to SA 220, we are not talking about firm as a whole. We are talking about something which will apply to the engagement. Okay, so now we are talking about quality control for an audit of financial statements. Means when you actually go do the audit. Okay, so in respect of that audit, in respect of that engagement, what are those quality control requirements? So will this be any different from what SQC1 requires? No. But the point is, now we are looking at the engagement specifically. Now we are not looking at the generic requirements of the firm. Okay, so SQC 220, sorry, SA 220 is modeled on the lines of SQC1 only. It describes responsibilities of engagement partner in relation to what? Leadership, ethical requirements, acceptance, continuance. So all of these things as to whether these are getting performed in relation to that particular engagement or not. Okay, means its implementation at the engagement level is something that you look at in case of SA 220. Right? So let's quickly try to understand the differences between these two. I think that will give you some more perspective. If let's suppose you are still not clear as to what this SQC and SA 220 may be different on. So SQC1, it applies to entire firm and fixes the responsibility of the firm to be assumed by whom? CEO or managing partner. SA 220, it applies to particular audit engagement and the engagement partner takes the responsibility. Why? Because when it comes to the audit engagement, so it's the engagement partner who is responsible for that, not the managing partner, not the entire firm. Correct? Next, when we talk about SQC1, it is applicable to audits, reviews, other insurance related service engagements. Means we are talking about assurance engagements. SA 220 is all in respect of audit engagements, because now we are talking about specifically audit of financial statements of an entity. SQC1, it relates to setting up of a quality control system. Means we are talking about policies, procedures of the firm. But when it comes to SA 220, it deals with the responsibility of the engagement team to implement the quality control procedures that are applicable to audit engagements. Okay. When we talk about SQC1, it pertains to establishing a system of quality control designed to provide firm with reasonable assurance that a firm and its personnel they comply with professional requirements. When it comes to SA220 you can say works as a next step. What is the first step? It works with a premise of SQC1, means SQC1 will set the base, basis which SA220 will have to be applied. So that's why you should say that SA220 is actually what? Application of SQC1 at an engagement level. Okay. Very broadly, this is what we can say in respect of SQC1 and SA220. Now, when it comes to the quality control. Now, for quality control, one, of course, the firm has to look into it internally in terms of how this is required to be looked at. Then, when it comes to the external reviews, so ICAI also has a mechanism. So there's a peer review board which looks into the documentation files of the audit firms. Then you have this quality review board, QRB, which again looks into the engagement files of professional firms. So there are different criteria basis which these files are picked up. And then of course you have this another authority, NAFRA, which looks into the documentation of the professional firms, right? So now I think as a next step, what we can do is we can just move on to the questions. Okay, so what we will do is we'll just start picking up questions to discuss all of these requirements of SQC1 and SA220. Any questions so far? Any doubts if you have? Any questions? Any doubts? No? All right. So now what we can do is we can take a break and let's meet after the break, and then we'll start with the questions. Okay. So Ashok, we can take a break now. Let's look at some questions. Okay, so let's look at this one. ABC and Associates, chartered accountants firm, has a policy to accept the clients wherein the risk evaluation is conducted with respect to the company and the promoter. Okay. So it seems to be around the client acceptance, correct? Now, just give me a minute. Okay, so it seems to be around the client acceptance. XYZ Limited approached ABC and Associates. So it seems to be the client. The promoter of XYZ Limited is a close associate and family friend of Mr. A. Mr. A is whom? Managing partner of ABC and Associates. Now, this is important. We are talking about association between promoter of XYZ and managing partner of the audit firm. XYZ Limited has been in the news in the previous year for certain inquiries from the regulatory authorities in relation to certain matters. The existing auditor of XYZ Limited has resigned and has created a casual vacancy. Okay. So there are some inquiries which are going on from the regulatory authorities. And the auditor of XYZ has resigned, right? XYZ is ready to offer 25% more than the existing audit fees. So he's happy to pay a premium on the audit fee. Okay, which puts a question mark as to why this premium is offered. Because generally, when you go accept an engagement, what is it that the company will want? Company will want to cut down the fees. But this company is happy to pay more, and that to 25%, which is a significant increase, correct? And has approached ABC for appointment as an auditor. Mr. A is who? Managing partner of ABC, has a strong recommendation to the firm to accept the audit. Okay, so there's a strong recommendation to the firm to accept the audit from Mr. A. What is your understanding of the functioning of the tone at the top of the firm ABC and Associates, Chartered Accountants? What are the considerations one should exercise to uphold the quality of the firm? Over to you. Any thoughts? Who will answer this quickly? Yes, quickly. Over to you.
Sir, here Mr. A is the managing partner of ABC Associates.
Okay.
So, being the engagement partner, he has the responsibility to maintain quality standards when performing an engagement or even when accepting the client. So, with regard to the client, there are many issues regarding his integrity. His integrity is in question, and moreover, the promoter of client is a close associate of engagement partner.
Managing partner.
So, yes, sir, managing partner.
Yes.
Here, even they are ready to offer a premium for the audit fee.
Right.
We can consider it as the firm is not emphasizing on the quality to be maintained. It is taking stand towards the commercial consideration.
Right. And in terms of this ABC, what do you think? What is your outcome as to SQC or the quality control criterias in relation to client acceptance that we look at? So, what is your understanding basis this fact scenario? What do you think?
As per quality standards regarding acceptance of client, there is a question regarding the integrity of the client.
Right. So, what do you observe? Do you find it that the firm is good into it, or you find no, the firm is not good in terms of the quality control criterias which are expected to be in place?
No, sir, the firm is not in maintenance of the quality control.
So, what makes you say that? Why do you think no, firm is not moving in the right direction as far as quality control is concerned?
They did not follow the quality control standards which need to be taken into consideration when accepting the client relationship.
Very good. Anyone else who would like to add here? Shailendra, Geeta, you'd like to add something? Yes.
Not complying with ethical requirements also.
Okay. So, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
Code of ethics is not professional behavior and all are not due diligence means they are taking the fees and there is a relationship, familiarity and all.
Right. Okay. Anything else? Shailendra, you'd like to add something?
No, it's okay, sir. Basic day.
All right. So, let's look at this. See, in the given scenario, when you look at the company, so what do you find? That there is some problem as far as its operations are concerned. Yes or no? So the given situation indicates proposed client is a new one whose promoter is a close associate and family friend of managing partner. However, previous auditor has resigned and the company is happy to pay more audit fee and that to substantial increase. As far as the company is concerned, some regulatory inquiries are going on, which is not appropriate. In spite in spite of all of this, Mr. A managing partner has a strong recommendation. See, generally, what will you do? When any such client will reach out to you as an audit firm, what will you do? Okay. You'll do the evaluation. And your evaluation criteria has to be thorough. That will also increase. Yes or no? It has to be more stringent. Why? Considering the situation which is going on. And there appears to be something fishy. Why? Because you should be thinking as to why the client is ready to offer more. Generally, you don't find that. Yes or no? Despite that, instead of, in fact, following what the managing partner should do, managing partner should be very clear in terms of the system which is there and which should be applicable to each and every client in an appropriate manner, which should be free from any sort of bias. Means it should apply to all the clients in an equal manner. Over here, because the managing partner has a relationship, so that's why he's not looking into those quality control criteria. He's trying to bypass that. Yes or no? Yeah. So if he is recommending that, what is the basis of his recommendation? Relationship only. So is it appropriate? Answer is no, because the leadership is expected to set up the tone for the quality control within the firm. If the leadership themselves is not following that, do we expect the others to follow? No, it becomes very difficult, right? So, as far as this firm is concerned, it reflects very poorly regarding what? Functioning at the top. Yes or no? Yeah. SQC1 requires that firm establish a system of quality control designed to provide it with reasonable assurance that the firm and its personnel comply with professional standards and legal and regulatory requirements. It further requires that firm's business strategy is subject to overriding the requirement of the firm to achieve quality in all engagements. However, in the given situation, commercial considerations seem to be overriding. Clearly, yeah, because there's a hike. So that could also be one of the reasons why the firm is more inclined to pick up this engagement. No doubt that this relationship, okay, because the managing partner is a close associate and a family friend, so that is also a driving factor. But should these two be the criteria? Answer is no. The matter should have been brought to the knowledge of the firm in accordance with SQC1, as it involves issue of independence of managing partner. Clearly. Further, matter of inquiries from the regulators and resignation of previous auditor, they raise a question about the integrity of the proposed client. SQC1 further requires firm to consider before the engagement acceptance that the client does not lack integrity, which is a question mark here. So no, which is a question mark. All these factors need to be considered before accepting the engagement. Right? Overall, such a situation reflects lack of proper establishment of quality control framework at the top of the firm. So something which is missing at the top of the firm is clearly missing at an overall basis. Now, what are the considerations you'll have as a firm for upholding the quality? So therein we can get on to those parameters. Okay. So I would say the first part, so this question has got two parts. That is more of situation based. But when it comes to the second part, this becomes generic, because in general you are required to now speak on this. The firm assigns its management responsibilities so that commercial considerations do not override quality of work performed. So that's one. Firm's policies and procedures in relation to its personnel are designed to demonstrate its overriding commitment to the quality. Third, firm devotes sufficient resources for development and documentation of its quality control policies and procedures. Fourth, a firm before accepting an engagement should acquire vital information about the client. Such an information should help the firm to decide about integrity of the client, promoters, and AMP. Okay. Competence to perform the engagements and compliance with ethical requirements. Right? Clear on this? Okay. Yeah. All right. So now moving on to the next one. CAM is introduced to a prospective client in a social function. He assures to visit office of CAM very soon in relation to professional work. During discussions over a cup of coffee next week, it transpires that there was a search by this regulator in his premises about a month back, resulting into recovery of huge sums of cash. Income tax department had also searched his premises in relation to bogus capital gains on penny stocks. Okay, so it seems to be sort of illegitimate transactions which the client is engaged into. Complaining about poor quality of services provided by his present auditor, he offers appointment as a tax auditor of his 5 family-owned firms to CAM in lieu of handsome fee. Now, this is an important factor. What are the factors to be evaluated by CAM if he wants to take up the engagement? Over to you. What do you think? Yes. What are the factors you will consider in this case?
Sir, before accepting the engagement, there should be review about whether to accept the client or not. In this regard, we should look into the integrity of the client.
Right.
In the given case, there has been a search by the income tax department in relation to capital gains or penny stocks, which clearly states that there is a question mark regarding the integrity of the client.
Right.
And CAM should not accept the engagement, sir.
Okay, good. Anyone else who would like to add something? Anything you'd like to add? Quickly,
Not complying with ethical requirements, because the lieu of handsome fees is provided to him because of this. So quality is not maintained.
Right. So you just mean to say that when it comes to the ethical requirements, so that is also an important factor for the auditor to look into, which has not been taken care of. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So let's look at this. Now, as per SQC1, before accepting a new engagement, what do you do? A very important thing is to check the integrity of the client. Correct? Now, in this case, considering that the client is involved in certain transactions. Okay, what is that? Recovery of huge sums of cash, bogus capital gain on penny stocks. This reflects very badly on the part of the client. Yeah. So the personnel who is involved in these sort of transactions, what do we talk about the integrity over there? So that seems to be completely missing. Right? So that's why in this case, what will happen? This evaluation is very stringent. Okay. Now it comes to the auditor to decide whether to go for these type of engagements or not. Yes or no? Right? So therefore, the offer should not be accepted.
Sir, existing one will continue.
No, existing one will continue. We don't know. Why? Because over here, do we have anything about the existing one? I don't find any information about the existing one.
But if we consider
If
this,
let's suppose we talk about the existing one, okay, let's suppose if we extend this further. So there are two parts to it. So one is the part which is offered to CAM. So CAM is offered what? He has offered tax audit of his 5 family owned firms. And let's suppose there are 6 firms. Let me just extend this. Out of this, 5 are offered to a CAM and 1, let's suppose, let me just call it as entity A. Now, entity A is currently audited by, let's suppose, CA ABC. Let's suppose ABC is auditing that. In the given question, it doesn't say that the existing entity is the one over which the auditor has resigned and that's why it's moving to CAM. No, it doesn't say that. But I'll just extend this. Let's suppose if CAM is the auditor, for which the auditor, and audit of entity A is going on. And let's suppose what is the financial year? Let's suppose financial year is 24-25. Now in this case, what will CA ABC do? So ABC will have to evaluate the impact of such type of events as well as transactions. So there are two events. Two regulators have done the investigation. So any impact of that, who will evaluate that? ABC on the financial statements. Further, ABC will also be required to look into the extent of his audit procedures. Okay, basis these events which have taken place, extent of testing he will have to plan to get into these type of transactions, to get into the details of these types of transactions, so that he can evaluate as to what is going to be the impact of all of this on the financial statements and accordingly do the report. Okay, clear on this?
Okay, sir.
Yeah, clear?
Yeah.
All right, so now moving further. Next, let's look at the next one. RST and Company, a firm of chartered accountants. They are the auditors of a listed company. And this company is engaged in manufacturing of heavy machine components. Audit for the financial year 23-24 also included reports on matters listed in CARO. Means CARO is there. While reporting under clause 7A of the said order of CARO relating to regularity of undisputed statutory dues by the company, auditors have commented that the company is generally regular in depositing statutory dues to the appropriate authorities. Is the above reporting qualitative and in line with the requirements of SA 220? What are your thoughts? Tell me. What do you think? Okay, so let's look at this. See, such type of reporting is not qualitative. It is not in accordance with SA 220. One of the objectives of the auditor as per SA 220 is to implement quality control procedures at the engagement level that provide the auditor with reasonable assurance that the audit complies with professional requirements. The reporting under CARO is not proper, hence the audit does not comply with legal and regulatory requirements. Next, PQR is the statutory auditor of a listed company. There arose an issue during the course of audit relating to related party transactions. So I think the matter is around related party transactions. Engagement partner wants to consult EQCR on this matter during the course of audit process itself. So audit is going on and the engagement partner thinks that let's consult with EQCR on this matter. Now the question is, can he consult with the EQCR? Your thoughts. What do you think?
Yes, sir, he can.
Okay. If you can just elaborate this. What is the requirement? What should be done? Why it should be done?
Sir, EQCR should maintain objectivity in his report, but in
Okay.
case if engagement partner wants to consult during the process of engagement, if there is no what we say, if there is no impact to the objectivity, then the engagement partner may consult, but even the engagement partner and the quality control reviewer both should take care that there is no compromise to the objectivity. If in case there is any compromise to the objectivity, then he engagement partner should consult another person.
Okay. And in this case, I think they are just trying to stress upon one point. During the course of audit process itself, do
Yes,
you
sir.
find this to be a problem?
When there is no compromise to the objectivity, he can consult, sir.
Okay. So even if it's done during the course of audit process, you're saying it's not a problem, is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone else would like to add? Anyone else? Anything you'd like to add here? No? Okay. So let's look at this. See, it is necessary to maintain objectivity of the reviewer. EQCR is what? EQCR. R is a reviewer. Reviewer of quality of the engagement. Therefore, when it comes to the participation in the engagement or making decisions for the engagement team, that is not something which should be done. However, engagement partner may consult with EQCR during the engagement so as not to compromise his objectivity and eligibility to perform the role. Now, the important part is what? It shouldn't happen that EQCR is playing the role of audit partner itself. Yes or no? Why? Because if let's suppose EQCR is taking the decisions, EQCR is doing the audit in a way, then what will he review? In a way, he will be doing his own work. That is not going to be an appropriate sort of situation. Yes or no? Because that will dilute the role of the reviewer. He has to actually more of play the role of a reviewer. That doesn't mean he will not be involved in the discussions. Understood? Yeah. But the important point is that audit partner needs to ensure that he is more of a reviewer rather than playing the role of audit partner itself. Clear? Next, BNE and company, they are in the middle of audit process of a listed company. So the audit is going on for a listed company. Okay. During the audit, an issue arose relating to revenue from customers with the revenue from I think it's in relation to Ind AS 115. Yeah, so that's in relation to revenue recognition. So there is an issue in relation to revenue. Engagement partner took a certain stand. Means some position has been taken, means this revenue has been recognized basis some assessment by the engagement partner. However, EQCR recommended otherwise. There's a difference of view. Yes or no? So when it comes to the engagement partner, EP and EQCR, okay, they have a different view. Right? They are moving in opposite directions. Engagement partner is not willing to accept what EQCR is suggesting. So there seems to be a conflict. So there's a difference of opinion, and which can always be there. Yeah. So is it something unusual? No. It's possible. Two persons are there. They can always have a difference of opinion. And particularly when it comes to the matters which involve judgment, for example, revenue recognition. Maybe there is a tricky matter which required some sort of judgment. And that's why their views are different. Yeah, so it's a very possible situation that views of two partners are different. Two partners means one is EP and second is EQCR. Now comes the question that what do you do in this situation? Means how do we conclude? Where do we go? Yes or no? Yeah. So your thoughts, what will you do? So if let's suppose you are the EP, what will you do? Because
Sir,
eventually engage. Sorry, please go ahead.
EP can consult with any other partner having the relevant qualifications, or he can consult with any other professional or regulatory body, and
So
he
let's
should resolve the.
suppose, let me just extend this. Let's suppose EP has done the consultation. Okay, it's done. Consultation is already done. EQCR has also done the consultation. Okay, now basis their consultations, there's a difference. Now tell me, what do you do? Now you tell me, what do we do? So consultation is done, but there's a difference of opinion. So what do you do then?
So without resolution, report cannot be given. So they have to see in the policy and procedure they have made, no, and that procedure they have to see what they have done. As per that, they have to give the review there.
So when you say
Regarding
procedure, they have to see, what do you mean by procedure?
Their policies, their system, and they have documented that, no. In
Uh-huh.
that, they have to see that what
Which procedure you are referring to?
at the starting they have made this quality control procedures and policy and system is there, no.
But it's a
Quality.
long document. Let's suppose this document is running into, say, 300 pages. So you mean to say they should go through this entire SQC document? So how will that SQC document help them?
they need to consult regarding the particular issue, sir,
Hmm.
with the external party, like.
Okay, so you mean to say this matter needs to be referred to a third party, is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now let's try to understand. See, we are talking about a situation which is resulting into a difference of opinion. And such type of situations are possible. So that's why what should the firm do? Firm should have put into place a system to deal with such type of situations. Yes or no? Such type of system should have been there with the firm. And in terms of such type of systems, what is it that the firm will set up? Firm will identify somebody who will get involved in such type of resolutions. Maybe managing partner will have to now get involved to resolve this, or maybe there is a third person who is designated to play this role, because somebody has to come and get this resolved, yes or no, because there's a dispute currently between two persons, and its amicable settlement is required because it will impact the quality of the firm in terms of the deliverable. Yes or no? Yeah. So that's why when it comes to the recommendations of the EQCR, which are sort of not in line with what the EP is suggesting, the matter should be resolved by following the established procedures of the firm. So when you say that the EP should go and refer the policies, you need to be specific in terms of answering that. So you need to be specific that the policies, procedures of the firm in relation to this difference of opinion, because otherwise policies and procedures could be so many. Understood? Yeah. And what will it involve? It will involve consulting with a third party or within the firm, whatever is put down in that policy, because to follow the policy and procedures is the responsibility of each and every person in the organization. So EP, EQCR being a part of the firm, they will have to abide by what are the policies, procedures. Yes or no, right? And the audit report. Now comes the point. Can that be issued while the matter is under dispute? Can the EP go ahead and sign this? Answer is no. See, EP is the authority, no doubt. But EP has to ensure that the professional standards are followed. And one of the professional standards require what? To ensure that whatever EQCR requires is taken care of. Yeah, so EP cannot have a situation that EQCR had a different view, but I finalized this. No. Conclusion, resolution, they are required before the final reporting. So that's why in this case, the audit report can only be issued after the resolution of the matter. So practically, do we see such type of situations? See, not always, but yes, of course, sometimes there may be such type of situations. In which case, this policy of the firm will play a role. Okay. Next, MB and Associates is a partnership firm of chartered accountants, and it was established 7 years back. So it's an old firm. Firm is getting new clients and has also been offered new engagement services with existing clients. So there are two things. They are getting new companies or new clients, and they are also getting some more work with the existing clients. Yeah, so they seem to be expanding. Getting new clients, also getting new work with the same clients. Firm is concerned about obtaining such information as it considers necessary in the circumstances before accepting an engagement with the new client and acceptance of a new engagement with an existing client. Okay. Firm is looking to work with only select clients. Why? To adhere to quality control standards. So they are saying that wherever they are able to ensure that the quality control parameters are met, they will work. Otherwise, they don't want to work with each and every company. Again, it's again up to the firm. What do they want to do? Right? Guide the firm about the matters to be discussed. Sorry, matters to be considered with regard to integrity of a client as per the requirements of SQC1. Now, in this case, please understand that whenever in the question you have a very specific requirement. Now, what is the specific requirement? You are only required to comment upon the matters which are in relation to integrity of the client. So you shouldn't go very generic on this. Understood? Yeah. So you shouldn't go very generic on this. So over to you. What are your thoughts on this? Yes.
So the reputation of the promoters, key managerial personnel.
Okay. Good. What else?
And whether the client is involved in any money laundering activities or criminal activities.
Okay.
What are the business processes they are following?
Very good. What else?
Whether they are imposing any limitations on the scope of the audit. Whether
Okay.
they are very stringent with respect to the audit fee.
Right.
And reasons for appointing our firm as the auditors, and in case if there is any retirement of the previous auditors, reasons for not appointing them.
Okay. Good.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else would like to add to this? Anything you'd like to add? So let's look at this. I think largely you have covered most of the points. Now, when it comes to the client acceptance or the client continuance, we have discussed. See, it's a very important area. Why it's a very important area? Because that's how you are beginning the audit. See, audit is not about planning the audit and then going and performing certain audit procedures. It actually starts before that. Why? Because when you plan, the risk assessment that you do is dependent on certain factors. And what is that? Evaluation of this client acceptance or evaluation of client continuance. Because this will give you the insights about the client, about the company. So this has to be, you can say, something which will be put down while planning the audit. So that's why if this evaluation is not done, what do? Either you will do this at the time of audit planning, which anyways is required, or you will miss out on that. Okay, so now comes the point that for a firm to evaluate, particularly the integrity, what are the considerations? Identity, business reputation of the clients, owners, KMP, related parties, TCWG means board of directors. What are the nature of operations? So let's suppose the client is involved in, say, such type of business activities. Say, for example, they are in the business of running a casino. Okay. What are the business practices they have been following? Means SOPs which they have. Now, do you get access to all of this? The answer is no, but you can always go have discussions with the company. That will give you good insights about some of these requirements. Information concerning the attitude of the client's personnel. Who are those? Again, owners, KMPs, TCWG towards such matters as aggressive interpretation of accounting. Means, are they taking aggressive calls when it comes to the financial reporting? And what about their internal control environment? Again, it's a very, very important factor. Yeah, because if the corporate governance is strong, that will reflect nicely as far as the client is concerned. Whether the client is aggressively concerned with maintaining firm's fees as low as possible. Indications of an inappropriate limitation in scope of work. Now, again, this is not something you will want to accept as an auditor. Why? Because as an auditor, generally when it comes to statutory audit, okay, so it's standardized. So what is going to be the scope? Scope will be the audit of financial statements. Now, when it comes to the audit of financial statements, the auditor will decide what to do and how to do. It's not the client who will decide. So client will only say audit the financial statement. Okay, basis the gap, basis the gas. Then it comes to the auditor, how to perform that. So that's why such limitation should not be sort of, found in respect of that. Indications that the client may be involved in illegitimate activities. Reasons for proposed appointment of the firm and non-reappointment. Now, again, this is important as to if, let's suppose, the auditor is there. So what are the reasons for the previous auditor to move out? Okay. So that will also play an important role. So extent of knowledge a firm will have regarding the integrity will generally grow within the context of ongoing relationship. So that's why when it comes to client continuance, this will not be such challenging, or you can say this becomes fairly simple. Why? Because you have stayed with the company for some period of time. You know the people. So they are not new to you. So you'll have good insights about such type of people, such type of processes. But when it comes to a new one, therein it becomes important and in something over which efforts are required to be put in place. Okay. Next. SPS and Associates, a firm of chartered accountants. So they are the statutory auditors of GREC Limited for the last 2 years. Right? GREC Limited is engaged in the manufacturing and marketing of pharmaceutical goods in India. During the year 23-24, company has diversified and commenced providing software solutions in e-commerce in India as well as in certain African countries. SPS and Associates, while carrying out the audit, noticed that the company has expanded its operations into a new segment as well as in a new country. SPS and Associates does not possess necessary expertise and infrastructure to carry out the audit of these diversified business activities and accordingly wishes to withdraw from the engagement and client relationship. Means they want to move on, they want to quit. Discuss the issues that need to be addressed before deciding to withdraw. Over to you. What are your thoughts?
Sir,
Anyone?
every time when making,
Yes.
sir, when making assessment of whether to continue the engagement with the client or not, they should look into whether they are competent enough to continue the audit, whether they have the resources to perform the audit. In this case,
Right.
it is clearly evident that client has expanded its operations into the new segment
Right.
and they do not possess the necessary expertise to continue the audit.
Okay.
Considering these issues, um, they need to withdraw from the engagement. Before withdrawing, they need to discuss the reasons for the withdrawal with the uh, engage withdrawal from. I mean, with those charged with the governance also, why they are withdrawing from the engagement.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Anything you'd like to add? No?
So
So
there
let's.
is quite
Yes.
expertise issue because they are not expert in handling this new business. So it's the
Right.
right call.
Okay. But it's not about whether it's right or wrong. It's about what are the things you will need to look into? What are the things you will consider? So let's look at this. Now, as per SQC, firm should establish policies and procedures for acceptance and continuance. Why? Because they will provide the firm as regards the assessment, okay, and eventually the decision making whether to continue or not to continue, and to continue only where it is competent to perform the engagement, has the capabilities, time, and resources. In the given case, what do you find? Firm for the last 2 years, so came to know that company has expanded into a new segment as well as a new country. The firm clearly lacks the capability. See, they don't have the expertise. Okay. Now, What are the policies and procedures on withdrawal from an engagement or from both the engagement and the client relationship? So what are the things you will consider? Discussing with appropriate level of client's management and TCWG regarding the appropriate action that the firm might take based on relevant facts and circumstances. If the firm determines it's appropriate to withdraw, discussing with appropriate level of client's management, no doubt that is important, and TCWG as regards the withdrawal from the engagement, okay, including the reasons for the withdrawal, considering whether there is a professional, regulatory, legal requirement for the firm to remain in place or for the firm to report the withdrawal from the engagement together with reasons for withdrawal to the regulatory authorities. So if let's suppose there is a requirement, so this again has to be put down in the policies procedures. That's what the firm should be following. Documenting significant issues, consultations, conclusions, and see when the firm would have done this assessment. So it has to be documented in an appropriate manner basis all of these criterias, right? Basis which firm will decide as to whether to do that or not. Correct? Next. PQR associates are the statutory auditors of a large unlisted company which is engaged in manufacturing of auto components. Okay, so that's the nature of this business. Manufacturing of auto components. Subsequent to reappointment of auditors in the AGM, company shared the appointment letter with PQR associates seeking acknowledgement and acceptance letter. Yeah, that's the routine procedure. CAR is the engagement partner and is planning to issue the acceptance letter. During the current financial year, there was a search by the income tax authorities on the company and certain accounting records were seized for verification. Based on the information available on social media, this engagement partner CAR noted that promoter's brother is contemplating. So first matter is what? There's a search by income tax department. Second is what? Promoter's brother means relative of promoter is contemplating to contest in the ensuing elections under the banner of a political party. Okay. One of the current senior engagement team manager who has been doing the audit engagement till the last year has left the firm. So this is the third point to be considered and is planning to provide some accounting services to one of the associate companies of this company. Okay, so means related party of this client. PQR associates are yet to recruit another senior manager having adequate experience in the audit of clients engaged in the automotive sector. So I think it talks about the skill set. Means the competence, capability. So that seems to be one of the factors. Elaborate the matters to be considered by PQR with respect to acceptance and continuance of client relationships, considering the above matters. Okay, so there are a lot of events you have to evaluate, basis which you will decide whether you want to continue or not continue. So I don't think it's about acceptance, it's about continuance, correct? Yes, over to you. What are your thoughts on this?
Sir, with regard to the client, again, there is a question regarding the integrity.
Okay.
As there was a search by the income tax department, even
Right.
a relative of the promoter is contesting to participate in the elections.
Right.
So the integrity of the client is questioned.
Right.
And when it comes to the perspective of the auditing firm,
Hmm.
they do not have the uh, they do not have the adequate experience to conduct the audit because the senior manager has resigned and they did not yet recruit another person
So the
capable enough to.
replacement is not available. So you're saying
Yes, sir.
right now the skill set seems to be missing, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Anyone else? Anything you'd like to add? No? Okay, so let's look at this. I think over here, the events are quite clear. Yes or no? And we also understand that all of these events will play a role as far as continuance of the client is concerned. What are those? Integrity of the client, promoters, KMP, competence, again, very important, compliance with ethical requirements. So, what should the firm do? Firm will have to obtain all of this information. Where the issues have been identified and the firm decides to accept or continue, it should document that. Now, please remember, documentation is very, very important. Generally, if we accept, we document. If we don't accept, we don't document. But tomorrow, how do you demonstrate that it's only for acceptance you are documenting and for the rejection you are not documenting? Or you are documenting for both. So only through the documentation. And when it comes to the documentation, what will happen? You will have to evaluate each and every criteria which is available. Further, because now we are talking about a specific engagement. So is it only SQC1? No. It's the audit of financial statements of a company. So that's why SA 220 will also be required to be looked at. So engagement partner shall form a conclusion on compliance with independence requirements. In doing so, engagement partner shall obtain relevant information from the firm and where applicable network firms to identify and evaluate circumstances and relationships that create threats to independence. So that's what SA 220 also requires, which is in line with what SQC requires. Huh? So therefore, what should this firm do? Follow their policies and procedures for client acceptance and continence. No doubt. So this will include what? Evaluating the client integrity, assessing the potential risks associated with the engagement, if any, ensuring that the firm has the necessary resources, expertise to perform the engagement effectively. So it's not about putting any person, it's all about putting the right person for this job. Engagement team should assess whether the company is involved in any funding activities to the political parties, and if so, inquire, assess the risk related to such transactions. It's all about risk assessment. Huh? Because why will you do this? Because you want to get into the risk assessment. You want to decide as to what is the risk. Is it low, high, medium? Where do you go? Yes or no? Communicate clearly with the client regarding the scope of the engagement, responsibilities of both the parties, and any limitations on the services to be provided. This helps manage expectations and ensures alignment between the firm and the client. Independence and objectivity throughout the engagement. Any potential threats to independence, such as relationships with clients' affiliates, involvement in political activities by related parties, they need to be evaluated, mitigated. Since the senior manager who was on this engagement is providing certain accounting services to one of the group companies, the engagement partner should assess whether this would have any impact on the audit and also evaluate the relevant ethical and independence requirements. Continually monitor what? Client relationship for any changes or developments that may impact the firm's ability to provide services effectively. This includes staying informed about significant events, okay, such as this any sort of investigation, changes in client management, potential conflict of interest, okay, something which you find over here. Further, also to ensure that the engagement team possesses the necessary competence and the capabilities to perform the audit effectively. Departure of a senior manager and a need to recruit a replacement should be addressed promptly to maintain audit quality. Since one of the senior engagement team members has left, the firm needs to evaluate whether he would be, whether he would be in a position to devote adequate time on the engagement or whether to recruit another resource. If at all, the firm is planning that the same person will continue. Right? Let's look at the next one. CA Giri is a senior partner of TSV Associates. Okay. TSV Associates is a reputed firm of chartered accountants which has been in practice for more than 5 decades. So it's an old firm, right? Firm undertakes statutory audits of large listed companies across various industry sectors and has more than 50 qualified experienced professionals. It means they have the experienced staff available for the purposes of engagements. Now, CA Giri has been assigned as EQCR. Now we are talking about EQCR for an audit engagement of a listed company. What are the aspects which would be looked into by CA Giri as an EQCR? In relation to the engagement. Okay. Upon completion of the review, CA Giri has identified certain issues with respect to revenue recognition and adequacy of provisions related to owner's contract. So some accounting issues have been observed. Views of CA Giri are not accepted by engagement partner. Again, what do we find? EP and EQCR, there's a conflict. Suggest ways of resolving the difference of opinion between CA Giri and EP. Over to you. What do you think? What will you do? Tell me.
Sir, considering the aspects which need to be looked by CA Giri, he looks into the engagement team's evaluation regarding the independence of the client.
Okay.
And if there are any significant matters, how they have handled and the results regarding the same.
Good. So
And
let's look into this. Now, when it comes to this quality control, so EQCR on performing an engagement quality control shall consider the following. What are those? First is the independence evaluation. Second, whether appropriate consultation has been taken in relation to the tricky matters, okay? Some of the contentious, difficult matters. Whether audit documentation selected for review reflects the work performed in relation to significant judgments made, support the conclusions reached. Right? Now, there might be a difference of opinion. And for this, we have already discussed what is it that the EP and EQCR need to do, mechanism which the firm would have put in place. So that is going to be the starting point. Yes or no? That's going to be the starting point. That's how they will begin. Because whatever the firm would have established, that's what both the partners will have to follow. Because they will have to abide by the policies, procedures of the firm, which the firm has already put in place. So they will have to look into it and they will have to follow that. And that mechanism will give them the understanding as to what do they need to do. Means they need to consult somebody who's a third party, who's a regulator, means any sort of authority, or maybe the managing partner will play this role. So that's how this matter needs to be resolved. Clear? Next, TPX and Company is a large audit firm. It maintains audit documentation both electronically and in physical form, means hard files, hard copy files. Physical files are neither scanned and incorporated into electronic files, nor cross-reference to the electronic files. Further, there are many instances where the audit working papers do not contain details as to whether the information was obtained from the client or prepared by the engagement. So can you understand the situation? So over here, we are talking about the audit documentation. Okay, so audit working papers means the audit documentation. So we are talking about there are many work papers over which clarity is not there. Means the documentation is weak. What is the weakness? It appears as if the document which was given by the client, the same document has been put down by the audit team in their folder. Means they didn't audit that. Let's suppose client has computed depreciation. So they have shared a file with calculation of depreciation. So what did the audit team do? So they took the file and as it is, they have put down in their folder or in their working files. Ideally, what should an auditor do? They should have shown some checking, some tick mark should have been given. The objective should have been given. What is the checking which has been performed? If there are any observations, any errors, all of those things should have been included. So that is what will reflect on the file in terms of the work done. As of now, the difference is missing. So what does it mean? It means audit is not done. So if the documentation is not there, so what will you assume? Audit is not done. Yes or no? So that's the assumption. And there's no way to prove otherwise. So that's the understanding you will move with. Correct? The other problem which you find is what? When the physical files are kept along with the electronic files, how do you link these two? Means are they complementing each other? Do you know about it? So for that, what do? You'll have to put some cross-referencing. Otherwise, how do you achieve that? Yeah, so that seems to be a problem as of now, basis the facts which are available. But let's understand as to what is really the requirement. How do you view the above situation from the point of view of quality control system in the audit firm? So I would request if you can just first of all let me know the relevant requirement of the standard which gets triggered over here. And then you can just share as to how do you look at the given situation. Over to you. What are your thoughts on this? Over to you. Yes, quickly, your thoughts?
Sir,
Anyone?
as per
Yes, please
SQC1,
go ahead.
as per SQC1, there should be proper documentation regarding each and every aspect of the engagement. But in this case, we see lot of deviations regarding the quality. Even though they
Right,
are maintaining both electronically and physically, there are no cross references to the electronic files. This
right,
question, these questions, in this case, there is a question regarding the maintenance of the files properly, regarding confidentiality, accessibility.
right. So, what do you do in this case? What is your assessment in such a case? How will you look at
The
the quality control system? Means what is going to be your feedback when it comes to the quality control system? Do you find that appropriate? Do you find that missing?
No, sir, here the quality control is completely missing.
Okay,
Yes.
okay,
Physical files need to be properly scanned and incorporated into the electronic files.
right. Very good. So I think over here, once again, what is it that we are discussing? We are discussing SQC1. Clearly, SQC1 talks about archival, retention of the files. So it talks about the firm needs to put into place policies and procedures. For what? For confidentiality, safe custody, integrity, accessibility, and retrievability of engagement documentation. Now, over here, what do you find? The linkage between the two files is missing. So, inability to do so shows the firm has not established these policies. Yes or no? Which reflects poorly on the requirement related to SQC1. Number one, okay, to begin with. For all the practical reasons, original paper documentation may not be electronically scanned for inclusion in the engagement files. In that case, what do the firm do? Firm implements appropriate procedures. For what? For generating the scanned copies in relation to the original paper documentation. Integrate scanned copies, indexation, signing off, enabling the scanned copies to be retrieved and printed. Yeah, and there has to be a clear demarcation as to what constitutes the working papers, because something which is which is constituting the working paper should have been there. Something which is not a working paper, do you want that? Because if, let's suppose, you're taking 3 files from the client, no work done, and those same 3 files move to your working papers, what is that? That is nothing. That is not the audit documentation. Yes or no? That is of no use. Huh? So this is not the audit documentation. This is the client document, right? Which is not appropriate for the auditor to look at, right? So I think with this, we can just conclude our discussion. Happy to have your questions, if any, before we wind up. Over to you. Any questions if you have?
Sir, for
No?
exam, each
Yes.
chapter will cover MCQ also and normal question also. We have to be alert for both the things.
Yeah, of course. So I would say you should ensure that your preparation is thorough. Okay, so of course, I understand there are a lot of requirements for you to look into. But I would always recommend not be selective in terms of going through the stuff. So even if you just go through some of the requirements, okay, instead of being selective, you can just still go through some of those requirements which you plan to skip, will help you a great deal. Because see, audit is a very practical subject, the way you look at it. If you'll just go through that once, I'm sure you'll be able to attempt that in the exam.
Sir, thoughts was for audit na long back. Matlab, we are the old student, like, because one group is clear. Like earlier they were saying audit should be clear based on practical knowledge. But
Right.
nowadays audit need keywords, like otherwise they will not give the marks.
So of course, that's correct, that keywords are important. But see, for keywords, you need to at least go through the stuff. So if you skip that altogether, then the keywords are also not available. Or forget about keywords, the words are not available. So I'm saying at least the words have to be there. Forget the keywords. Okay, so that's my point.
So sir, overall, I think there is 19 chapters for audit and 15 MCQ and 14 normal questions. So overall 29 questions are coming up. Well, we should consider like each chapter maybe give 2 questions, maybe one MCQ, one other, tentatively. Well, we can't skip anything. Well, every chapter will be touched overall.
So I think you are given a weightage. So if you want, maybe we can just go to the weightage during the upcoming sessions, and thereby we can just get some more clarity around it.
Okay, but weightage is not sure. Now, institute want to cover everything. He will
No,
touch.
weightage is available in your course curriculum. Weightage is available. Huh? You can always look at the weightage.
But each chapter is important. Now, each chapter will be
Yeah, of
covered.
course, every chapter is important. Huh? That's why I'm telling you. Each chapter is important.
Then, sir,
You
what
should
is
not
the
be
logic
planning
of
to.
this? If each subject is important, like because the student is changing some trends also every time. Well, weightage is not like 100% proof they will follow. Well, this is like tentative idea only.
No, so when you say weightage, so weightage is given for a particular chapter or at times a mix of chapters, okay, or a group of chapters. So if let's suppose you are given a weightage of 10 marks for 3 chapters, so that means 10 marks could be selected maybe from a particular chapter, one, or it could be a combination of three. Doesn't matter. But as far as your audit exam is concerned and your knowledge is concerned, I would advise you not to be selective. So of course you can focus more on some areas, less on some areas, but don't try to be selective. Just make sure that you read everything.
But sir, other than reading, they are looking for keywords. Now, if we
So
keep on
that's what I
reading,
discussed with you, and that's why I'm saying that that is expected out of you at final level. See, audit is what? Audit is your core. As a chartered accountant, this is the core subject which is expected from every chartered accountant. Yeah, so at final level, tomorrow you will become a chartered accountant, a professional. So it's expected. Huh? Otherwise, how will you work as a chartered accountant later on? Huh? So I think that's something which will be expected at the final level.
okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Shailendra, if you have more queries, you can definitely reach to us.
Sure, ma'am.
Right?
Basically, audit you have to be extra.
Query feature also.
Mm-hmm.
And Achal sir has already clarified all your doubts.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He already told you that each and every chapter is important. Skill-wise and section-wise weightage is given on the website. You may just go on BS Knowledge Portal or ICAI site. You will get the skill-wise and section-wise weightage. For each and every section, weightage is defined. And today we have started with very important engagement and quality control standards. And that is our section 1. Highest weightage of the curriculum. Right?
No, I think his concern is around two things. One,
Yeah.
does he need to cover every chapter, or should he skip, or can he skip any of that? Number two, what about the keywords? So if what if he doesn't write keywords? So I think his concern is around these two things in particular.
So, do you think misstatement or mistake can be, you can use the word mistake for misstatement? Because in the word, if you will see, misstatement will be like corrected as mistake word.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you think?
Can you repeat again? Mistake?
Rather than using word misstatement, can you write mistake?
I mean, it should be misstatement only.
Or instead of materiality, can you use some other word? So that is the
Keyword,
importance
keyword is
of
okay,
the
ma'am.
term.
Because see,
Yeah, yeah,
generally
yeah.
like questions are coming up like 6 mark, 4 mark, 2 marks. But MCQ is okay. Like if she is right, we'll get full marks. For other, na, like we have to showcase something deep knowledge. Only then we'll get some marks.
Actually, right now, what we are doing, we are running for shortcut. We are not doing in-depth study. We are going for shortcut. And shortcut means we are looking for short notes, or maybe we are trying to understand with the help of flowcharts. So when you have not studied the concept, or when you have not studied the whole chapter or standard even once in detail, definitely you will not be able to understand the requirement of the question. You will get confused, and then rather than giving specific answer, you will be giving general answer in the examination, which generally happens with the student. They are confused which standard will be applicable, and in the standard also which part will be applicable, because at the end we think we have written correct answer, but that is general answer, not specific.
Because
And at
ma'am,
CA final level, yeah.
syllabus is very wide. Matlab, if we keep on studying everything, na, like during the exam time, we will write the general things. So selective intensive is must. It's my thought only.
Each and every chapter, there is specific weightage. Now it's up to you. We cannot recommend or suggest to go for selective study. Individual decision can be taken by anyone, right? But from institute's perspective, each and every chapter is important and it carry certain weightage.
Because when we
Okay,
study
so
for
it's
knowledge,
up
na,
to you.
madam, keep on reading like for knowledge, then we write general things only. Then marks are not coming. So we have to take it down. Matlab, that is okay. Matlab, I know expectation is high. We have to study hard.
Nahi, nahi. Of course, for the, like, if you are going to appear in the May examination, and presently we are in February, still you are having 2 months. And if you plan properly, you can complete it thoroughly and properly. But then it is not possible that you are studying only for half an hour or 1 hour, or you are completing the whole curriculum in 4 to 5 days. You need to properly plan the whole curriculum, and in 60 days duration, apart from studying auditing, you can do it effectively. So you need to make your whole planner, and then of course you can discuss with us one to one. You can call on 0120 3045 925, right?
Sure, ma'am.
Or you can write a mail, or in ask your query, through ask your query feature also you can write. We'll talk to you and discuss on the same if you are finding any difficulty.
Sure, ma'am. Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
So of course, key terms you need to learn. Professional misconduct and other misconduct also means different meaning is there for both the terms. So we cannot use it interchangeably. So specific meaning of terms we should be knowing. But of course, we don't want you to write as it is. You can write in your own language, own words, but be strict to some specific key technical terms which are required.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay? Yeah. Yeah. Any other doubt or query?
Ma'am, only once reading is not sufficient. I know it. I have read full book one time. It's not sufficient. We have to do much more than that.
Yes. So multiple revisions are required, because once though we are studying now, we feel yes, samajh aa gaya and we can write. But at the when we are in the examination hall, we are not able to recall. So at least 3 revisions are required. And if it is done simultaneously, what today Achal sir taught you, uh, if you are revising tomorrow and day after tomorrow, it will be like, it will be easier for you to recall. When you are writing, you will be able to write in effective manner. You will be writing the required answer because you are revising simultaneously. If you have studied for 7 days and after 20 days break, you are again studying audit, it will definitely, you need to more, you need to study more, rather than if what we have studied today, if we are revising tomorrow and day after tomorrow. So at least 3 revisions are required. And then writing practice is also very important.
Yes, ma'am. Writing practice is much more. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Then only you are able to analyze now that whether the requirement of the question is being identified by you and you are writing the relevant and required answer.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Any other doubt?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
So we are very thankful to Achal sir. He shared his vast experience and knowledge in the session. And thank you to each and every student. Again, we are having our next class on Wednesday, right? And you all must be aware that we have started we have taken an initiative, Audit Insights, bridging theory with the practice, right? So that also we like session is on Wednesday and Saturday. So looking forward to see you on Wednesday, and our next class is again at 6 p.m. and topic is same, engagement and quality control standards. My request to all of the students that please revise what sir has taught taught you in the class, whatever being questions, do more practice of the questions. And if you have any doubt, please ask in the next class. With this, thank you, Achal sir. Thank you very much. And thank you to students.
All right. Thanks. Thanks, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.